Hello and welcome to A Second Look. My name is Emmett McConnell. In this series, I look back at the big plays and goals from the Union's previous match. Last weekend, the Union did what the Sixers couldn't, go into Toronto and get a win. Now in this episode, I'm going to specifically focus on player movement. Specifically, what makes Kacper Przybylko such an important forward leading the lines for the Union. He might not be as fast as Fafa Pico. He might not be as good a dribbler as David Akam, and he might not be as good a playmaker as Brendan Aronson or Marco Fabian, but he's a really clever player, and that often leads to him getting in shooting positions behind defenses or making a final pass, as we saw in the game-winning goal in this match. Anyway, let's take a second look. This is an early chance for Przybylko. He creates a shooting opportunity out of basically nothing. The ball comes forward from Haris Medunjanin, and Przybylko finds himself in a nice pocket of space in front of the Toronto defense. He knows no one is on his back, and he receives the ball side on, which allows him to turn much easier than if he put his back to goal. Marky Delgado catches up to him, and as he bursts to the final third. Meanwhile, Michael Bradley provides additional pressure on the inside. Przybylko runs beyond the ball instead of taking another touch. This is an indicator to the defenders that he plans on cutting the ball backwards and possibly playing it to a midfielder. Delgado hasn't gotten completely goal side of his man, and Bradley thinks this is the moment to step into his next touch and starts anticipating the backwards movement. Just when both defenders think he's about to go back, Przybylko accelerates and pulls the ball along, leaving both men in his wake. This is really clever from him. He doesn't use speed or close control to get around both men, but a slight hesitation, and just feints a back pass. Now as he approaches the defense, nobody steps to him. Laurent Simon is focusing on Marco Fabian, so it should really be Chris Mavinga who closes down the shot. He must not have thought the tall striker would hit one from that far, though. Przybylko strikes up and through the bottom of the ball, giving it topspin and curving the ball downwards. Quinton Westberg goes full stretch and deals with the shot well. From this distance, it would probably have to be top or bottom corner to beat the keeper. It seems Przybylko tries to open his hips and appear to curl to the back post shot, but instead he comes across it, hoping to fake the keeper into thinking it was going to the back post. Judging from his technique, Przybylko was probably planning on getting his shot a little higher and hoping the curve would bring it down over the keeper's head and just under the bar. Had he got it perfect, this would surely have been a goal of the week. Now for a Toronto chance, created by the playmaker Alejandro Pozuelo. It starts with him bursting past the Union midfield in a wide area. Jamiro Monteiro is constantly nipping at his heels this whole play, but is unable to fully recover and get goal side on his man. 5 Union players are now in close proximity to Pozuelo. Jonathan Osorio makes a run into the channel, and it pulls Ray Gaddis inside. You can't see him from here, but Justin Morrow is now wide open on the left side for Toronto. For the Union, the plan would be at this point to converge on the Spaniard and make it impossible for him to make that crossfield ball. I would want one of Bedoya and or Trusty to commit to Pozuelo a little earlier. At the point where Monteiro gets a foot to the ball, they are all just a little too close together. Perhaps Ray Gaddis should have passed Osorio off to Elliott as well, just as this ball comes loose. It comes to Osorio, and it's tough to tell whether he or Gaddis gets a touch to the ball, but either way, it deflects for the open Morrow. As this happens, look how many Union players are in this one part of the pitch, focusing on Pozuelo. Compressing the field is good, but there's an obvious tentativeness about the Union players to not foul Pozuelo here. When there's so many around him, someone should have been able to make a stop, so that Monteiro wasn't forced to make a tackle backwards towards his own net. Morrow, a left wing back, and not really a player who gets a lot of opportunities, just tries to smash through the back of the ball. But Coronel is quick to get across his line and get his body behind the ball. Maybe this play was a little lucky for Toronto given the deflection, but the Union were just too hesitant to make a play and stood off, as well as bunching up for too long, which allowed Morrow to get this space and hop on the loose ball. In this play, it's a Union midfielder's chance to run at the Toronto defense. Monteiro bursts forward with plenty of space to run. Marky Delgado is the right-sided central midfielder and just can't get over in time. Monteiro has his head up the whole time to pick up a pass. He has 4 men ahead of him in the white shirt. And you know he loves to play these forward passes, and he ends up finding the perfect one. I can't tell if this is a case of Przybylko's great movement, or if Simon was just ball watching. Przybylko peels off his man, and with Bradley dropping back in support, this has to be a perfect pass to split the two players. Simon is leading to his right, which makes this a little bit easier, but the weight is perfect as well. It comes right onto Przybylko's right foot, with plenty of pace to bypass the defenders, but it isn't too heavy to run ahead of the forward. Now maybe Przybylko gets the ball cut under him a little bit, but he still controls it well enough to find a shot. Not sure why Bedoya is so furious on this play though, it was a good save. Behind the goal is the best angle to see the shot. Westberg slides out, and normally, keepers are supposed to dive and put their hands to the near post, instead of the far post in these situations where they close down the forward. Westberg does the opposite, but he still comes up with the save. It's not a bad shot, and actually, it's going right inside the near post. He sends Westberg the wrong way too, but you have to give credit to the Toronto keeper because he gets down and he still makes the block. The focus on this play, however, offensively, should really be on Montero and his direct play, dribbling forward and making a forward pass that splits open the defense. As well as to Przybylko for peeling away from the defender, which gives him enough space to get behind the defense without needing to rely on speed. How about we look at a Union goal now? Przybylko once again involved, and once again a really smart play from the pole. Medunian looks up but can't find a forward pass, maybe because Przybylko has drifted wide here. So Medunian plays it to him. It's decent hold-up play, but in an unusual position. The wing play comes from, of course, Kai Wagner, but 3 Toronto players are in a position to make a play, though none of them pick up the threat of the run. Auro was initially running with Wagner, but loses the run as he approaches this group of players. At that point, he should have called on Eric Zavaleta to drop off and pick up the run, or at least communicate to Simon or Bradley, and they could have noticed the threat and dropped off into a defensive position. But they are all unreactive. Simon waltzes over after the pass comes, which bypasses all 3 players as Wagner is at a full sprint when it's hit. And he ends up leaving Chris Mavinga all alone to cover Fafa Pico. Fafa makes a good run and gets inside of Mavinga, which is important, because if he had tried to get to the back post, I think Mavinga would have cut this out pretty easily. The cross is perfect too, goes right into his path. Pico really only needs to get a slightest touch of the ball to put it goalward, and though it was credited as a Mavinga own goal, Pico deserves most of the credit for making the run and getting some sort of touch on the ball. With both players running at full speed, it's tough for this ball not to end up on target. I also want to point out that Simon just doesn't get it close enough to Wagner here to make a block. Also, somehow from this distance he gets nutmegged, which I find strange. Usually it's something when you're a lot closer and have less time to react. But it was smart from Wagner all the same. Sometimes it's better not to play the ball around the defender and risk them getting an outstretched leg in the way, but instead putting it right underneath them, which can surprise them, as in this scenario. Toronto equalized on a free kick, but once again, we won't look into that play because it's just a nice shot and not much to break down. So we'll move on to the game winner. Przybylko is dribbling across the defense around the midfield, and he ends up playing Montero into a 1v1 situation with Zavaleta. Currently, Auro is limping off injured right now, so Zavaleta doesn't have any help incoming. Justin Morrow, the left wing back, is chasing Przybylko. Mavinga is over here covering Pico, and really Morrow doesn't want to be in this position playing defensive midfield. And he ends up at a certain point losing his markers. The ball comes wide, and Przybylko ends up continuing his run and making a very unselfish diagonal run to pull out a defender. Morrow figures to pass off the duty to Simon, but doesn't identify the next threat, which is Montero continuing his run. Now, by Przybylko making this run, he pulls Simon, the center back in the middle of a 3-man back line, out of position into a wide area. Morrow didn't get back initially, and is now too far back to really be much of help. Mavinga is still occupied by Pico, and Bradley's also trying to get back, but is just too far out of position. With the pass coming into a wide area from Montero, Zavaleta gets turned the wrong way. He didn't watch the run behind him, and when the ball goes there, he gets confused and turns to see what the situation is, and whether or not he needs to cover Przybylko. Montero then continues his run into the space previously occupied by Przybylko. It's more smart play from the Union forward, because had he taken a touch at this moment, he would have quickly been closed by Simon and Zavaleta, and probably would not have gotten a pass off. Instead, he lets it run through his legs, and Simon and Zavaleta cannot close him down in time. Meanwhile, Montero is taken off and is now goal side on Moro, and Zavaleta is essentially taken out of the play. Simon again, not close enough to make a good block, and Przybylko plays it ahead of Zavaleta right into the path of Montero. He controls it well with the inside of his right foot, which allows him to keep his body between Zavaleta and Moro and the ball. Had he stopped the ball dead, or tried something cheeky like stopping with the outside of his left foot, the two players would have had the split second to be able to get a foot in that they would not have had in this situation. Westberg again dives early, but this time he isn't close enough to the player, or far enough to goal, to make a stop, and Montero curls it just inside the post. Again, it is the movement that we saw last week, similar to Elsinho, that makes this opening. It's the crisscrossing movement that pulls defenders away centrally, and allows the ball carrier to get more time and space to make a pass, or in this situation, a run. It's also not as easy a pass as it looks. From this angle, we'll see that Montero isn't goal side on Zavaleta just yet, but the center back isn't positioned centrally enough as well. So there's a lot of space for this run to be made to get beyond him. Przybylko actually has to weight the pass really well so that it travels fast enough to get past Zavaleta, but also not go too far for Montero. While it might not be entirely necessary, it's also a nice touch that he played with his left foot, so it curls around Zavaleta and back into the path of Montero. It's just another quick, direct counterattack from the Union. It's just a couple of passes, and clever movement that moves the Toronto defense around and allows just these two Union players to essentially play through the length of the field. Well, that's it for this episode. Next weekend, the Union host the Seattle Sounders. If you liked what you saw or you found it informative, leave me a review, share it with your friends, do something to let me know how much you like it. Leave me a comment if you think I could be doing something better as well. Until next time, I'm Emmett McConnell. Have a great day.